Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the dis and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. Looking forward to seeing you there.
What's up, everybody? It's T to the J with the roll away, and it is Wednesday, February 23rd. Holy smokes, the world is almost at an end of another month as February comes fast approaching with only a couple of days remaining. There's only 28 days in this month. So hopefully everybody is doing well. We're live on Facebook. We're live on the Disability Global Broadcast, and we are live on StreamYard. I'd like to welcome everybody as you come into the show. Hi, guys. Hi, Cindy. How are you? Thank you for being here. As you come in, remember that we are broadcasting live. Please leave a comment. Let us know how you're doing. Ask a question. Tell us what's going on in your lives today. We are live for My CP Does Not Define Me, episode 84. And it's getting older, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, much like me in my 40, my CP does not define me as getting much older. Hi, Kimberly. How are you? Hey, Josh. Thank you for coming in. I have a wonderful guest today, and we've actually tried to get her on the show before, and we had to reschedule, but we have her now. And I'm going to attempt to pronounce her name properly. It's Miss Marthe Marie, and she is fantastic, and she does so much for the CB community, but she is all the way on the other side of the world. So I'm going to introduce her and let her tell just a little bit about herself. Miss Marthe, how are you? Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, DJ. It's nice to be here.
Would you do us a favor and just introduce yourself and tell the viewers that are watching about yourself and kind of what you do, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So I'm Marthe Marie Kohne. I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm an adult with hemiplegia, cerebral palsy, and apart from working full-time for audiologist, speech therapist, I've also got my own organization, Abilities Without Limits NPC, where we educate people, especially about cerebral palsy and accessibility challenges. Cerebral palsy is something that's very close to my heart. And I just feel there's a need to educate people more about that because they don't have much knowledge about people with cerebral palsy.
And right off the bat, that's the thing that makes this so great, because knowledge is power. And you look at all the disabilities of the world, and there's disabilities left and right. And it seems to me that cerebral palsy sometimes is almost pushed back, to the back burner, where people, I don't want to say forget, but it's almost like it's older, so we don't have to worry about it, but we do, because it's common. It's, thousands and thousands of people. And as you can see, it's all over the world. So Abilities Without Limits. What a name. Let's get into that a little bit. But before we do, your type of cerebral palsy, can you kind of describe some of the things that you go through and you deal with your cerebral palsy?
Okay, so I've got hemiplegia, cerebral palsy. So it's my left hand that's affected. My right hand is normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to mention something quite interesting. Well, my whole life, basically, I thought everybody with hemiplegia, cerebral palsy has exactly the same hemiplegia, cerebral palsy as me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, but no, they don't. Especially when I started with Abilities Without Limits, my organization. Then I realized, what? You do get people with hemiplegia, cerebral palsy that might not have a feeling in the arm. Like with me, I call myself a copycat. Whenever I close my right hand, my left hand wants to close. And I want to brush my teeth, my left hand also wants to brush. So it's like a copycat, People have asked me, how do I cope with it? I said, well, I just deal with daily. I don't know anything else because I was born like this. So I suppose you just adapt. You compromise, adapt, and survive.
You do. That's very true. The patterning, as it's called, where one hand, if one hand closes, the other one as well will do it as well. When I was little, That's something that happened to me in spastic cerebral palsy, to where when one leg went up, the other leg would go up, and my mother and grandmother and godmother would spend hours breaking the pattern, taking one hand and moving it, taking the other hand, moving it, so that it would constantly break that pattern. But yes, every case of CP, even if it's labeled as the same, every case is different. And that's, again, we are creatures of habit. So we look at something and we say, oh, he has this, so that means he has this, this, and this. That is not the case. As you said, different parts are affected at different times. It can be more severe, less severe. And I think that is, labeling or trying to make it so, because we want to do it in a way we can understand, but I don't think labeling is the way to do it. I think you have to take each person as their own individuality and say, okay, she may have this type of cerebral palsy, but that doesn't mean she has all of the symptoms that this person may have. Or it may be milder, or it may be more severe. So you have to take it as it comes.
And look, we 17 million people globally with cerebral palsy, each one uniquely different from the other. I mean, with your type of cerebral palsy you have, I can sort of relate, but I won't have 100% understanding because I don't have your type of cerebral palsy. Where as a person with hemiplegia, I'll have more of a understanding because I've got something much similar to that person then.
You mentioned a word that I love, and that's the word relate. And I think with cerebral palsy as a whole, or cerebral palsy as a whole, we can relate to a lot of pieces of the puzzle. Because if you look at cerebral palsy as a whole, one of the biggest questions that I get is it genetic? No. It is a birth defect due to lack of oxygen to the brain. That is the main cause of issues of cerebral palsy. Now, some of the things that happen within cerebral palsy, the causes more of it, can be genetic. There are genetic pieces, but it does not mean that cerebral palsy itself is genetic. But I love that word relate, because when we get together as a cerebral palsy community, we all have issues that we can relate to as a cerebral palsy person.
Oh yes, yeah. No, definitely. And what I found with when I started my organization as well, and over the years as well, I actually had to find ways to explain to a person what is cerebral palsy, and I actually never thought about it until one of my colleagues actually asked me, because she asked me, what disability do you have? And I said, well, I've got cerebral palsy. And she asked, what's that? Then I realized, okay, but I don't know how to explain it to the people.
Right.
And there's two main ways that over these past years, that I taught myself, how to explain it to a person in a understandable language, if I can say it like that. So basically, the way I normally explain to them is, your brain, your CP side, either the brain, the messages are being sent from the brain to the body, but the messages are either distorted or they don't receive it. Those old dial-up internet connection we used. Now, the CP side is like that. If you want to give a, technology type of example. And if you ask a person not to blink their eyes for about 30 seconds, they're going to tell you either they can't do it or it's very difficult. Now, CP muscles are similar to that, but it just, you get spasms and that, muscle stiffness with that. Yeah.
I love the reference that you made there with the dial-up connection, because one of the ways, and again, we learn from each other. So if you think about it as in, again, the piece of the puzzle, the brain delivers messages. So when the brain tries to deliver messages to the body and the messages come in pieces, but not all together, the brain only gets part of the message when it comes back. So it circulates through the body, but it's like that game of telephone where you have the telephone on the string and one person's holding it, and or then you whisper something in someone's ear and they interpret it as something else, and they interpret it as something, and it goes down the line.
Yeah. Yes.
By the end of the line, you're like, what did she say? What did he say?
Exactly.
That's kind of where the brain goes, wait a minute, I'm confused. Okay, I got one finger moving, but I don't have the hand moving. Or I'm going to bring the arm over this way, but this one's going to go this way. So it's literally a piece of a puzzle, and it's a piece of a message, and you're trying to put them together on the answering machine to get a complete.
Absolutely. And I think, apart from us trying to explain to a non-disabled person what cerebral palsy is, I think, quite a bit of those people with disabilities, the cerebral palsy as well included, I think sometimes, even myself, I am guilty. Sometimes you get moments where you overthink, why is this happening? Why is that happening? But I think we must just put ourselves in a space where we don't overthink too much, because
Very true.
At the end of the day, why do you want to fit in if you were born to stand out?
Well, and here's the thing. We all have a destination to get somewhere. We all have to get from point A to point B. But here's the thing. Us as people, we don't have to take the same road to get there. Okay? So if you have a goal or you have something you want to do, doesn't matter if you have CP or not. Doesn't matter if it takes you 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour, a year, 2 years. You have a goal. As long as you're moving forward towards that goal and you get there, eventually you are going to accomplish that goal. Now, I love Cindy's comment right here. Cindy said, we just have to learn as we grow older.
Yes.
One thing I have learned about CP. Hi, Tiffany. How are you? Welcome to the show. You definitely, it is a learning experience with each person. Every person that interprets what CP is, no matter if we teach them or if we show them, they go, wow, I didn't understand that. CP is like a brain on fire. Well, I tell you, sometimes it feels that way. I can definitely relate to that. But I guess the frustrating part, especially when I was little, and I love little children, they will ask the question directly. They don't beat around the bush. Why can't you walk? And I tell them, well, basically, my brain can't tell my legs to move one foot in front of the other. And they look and they go, well, that's easy. I can show you. I said, well, your brain works a little bit differently than mine does. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, the message can't reach all the way down to my feet. And she looked at me and she goes, that's okay. That just means you're really tall. And I'm like, so
honest.
Again, the things that comes out of the mouth of babes, man, you just, the little ones, you learn to look at life differently. And I think I've said this many times, children are the future of our world. But if we downplay CP, and if we keep our children locked up because they have a disability, or if we keep our children separated because they have CP, and we don't bring them into the world and integrate them together, they're not going to learn. And they're going to be isolation. I think is horrible. I think when you isolate someone with a disability, no matter what disability it is, this is what you're doing. You're stopping them from learning.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Now, you mentioned this, and this is why I said that. I think you said CP without limits, right? You said it's
abilities without
abilities without limits.
But you can't say CP without limits.
The word ability, we often put limitations on ourselves as individuals. We all have the ability to get from point A to point B. But how we get there is the question. So my question for you is this: How did abilities without limits come about? When did you say, okay, this needs to be done, and how did that come up?
Okay. No, it's quite a few years. I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. I just knew I wanted to start an organization or something, to educate people and raise awareness. But at one stage, I didn't know where to start because I didn't want people to feel sorry for me when I explained to them about cerebral palsy, about my disability, or I didn't want them to feel sorry for other people. So I realized, you know what, when I share my journey and I explain to people about cerebral palsy disability, it's not about me. It's about educating the people and giving them that knowledge that they understand, what cerebral palsy is. So it's basically it's not about me. And I also wanted to include non-disabled people because I don't want them to be excluded. There are so many people and non-disabled people out there that literally have a fear. They don't know how to approach a person with a disability.
Yes.
Much easier to ignore when you've got fear, when you fear something, than to face it. And that's how I came about, that's how I decided on the name Abilities Without Limits. Actually, I woke up one morning, 2:00 in the morning, I woke up and I thought about the name and I said, Abilities Without Limits. Initially, I said abilities with no limits. I said, no, abilities without limits. Because remember, each one of us do have abilities without limits, whether you're a person with a disability or a non-disabled person.
You mentioned something about fear. And people are afraid of what they don't understand. And I've had that moment where someone will walk past me and not say anything, and I'll go, "Hi, how are you?" And they'll go, "Oh, geez," I'm like, "It's all right. I don't bite hard." And they stop me. What? And then they laugh. Talking to a person when you go past them, saying, "Hi, how are you? How's your day?" Hoping you're doing well. That icebreaker moment, you may get them out of a bad situation and you don't even know it. 30 seconds. 30 seconds to stop and smile at somebody. Just they look, why is he smiling at me? I go, because I can.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, thank you. And then see that's when the dynamic changes. And your Abilities Without Limits, that's dynamic. Because what it's doing, I mentioned this yesterday when I did a broadcast, we have to bridge the gap as people.
We have to. Yeah.
Between disability and fear. Okay?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The only way that you're going to understand something is to learn about it. And the only way that you're going to learn about something is to push your fear aside and say, I see you sitting here, and I don't mean to be offensive, and I don't mean to be rude, but I don't know why you're in that chair, and I would love to know. Can you tell me? That is a cool way to ask. And as long as they don't say, well, it's because I like to run people over, and then you run people away.
That's a different story.
And some may do that. But when you hurt or when you're holding things in or when you're afraid, laughter sometimes is the best way. And some people just don't know because they haven't been exposed to what disability is. They look at disability as this huge, big astronomical planet. Oh my God, they have a disability. They're inhuman. His hands roll up. Oh my God. Hi. I still get groceries just like you. I'm going to follow you and talk to you until you turn around and say something to me. I'll do that. And people, I'll go, trust me, you can't run faster than my chair can go. And then when they stop and they realize there's some kind of normality to this.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to feel somewhat normal, but what I say is they have to find their own, and it's the same way for bridging the gap of being somewhat unable to or not fearing to ask somebody a question. And here it is. This is when you were trying to explain it to kids, you really have to think how to do that. At least that's what I've found out. And then Don says this great comment. Some parents become overprotective. That's true.
Yeah.
We'll cover that in just a second. Josh, that hi, how you doing can do a lot. It sure can. That is the main icebreaker.
Yeah.
And hey, awesome people, it's been a while since I'm here. Hey, Susie, how are you? I think people. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. Hi, Erica. How are you? I think people being able to take that moment to go past the I'm not going to say anything to where you just take a moment and go, hi, how are you? It doesn't have to be an hour conversation. You don't have to find out exactly what they do. Let the conversation lead, and you might learn something because you took a chance.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid because people communicate differently. And that's what I want to say with cerebral palsy. The mouth is a muscle. I've said this before. And certain people with cerebral palsy are affected by speech. And I'm going to do this, and I'm not imitating. So the words may come out slowly or slurred, and you have to listen. Because they may not have the ability to articulate the way that I'm articulating. But if you take the time to listen and use your other senses, you might learn something and go, man, that was really hard for them. But it's amazing because they accomplished that goal.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought this up now, because if you don't understand what they're saying, ask them to repeat it, because they'll appreciate it and they'll realize that you see them as a person, not their disability.
One of the greatest things that you can do, going on top of what you just said, when you are at a person with a disability, whether they're sitting in a chair or they're on a walker, come down to their eye level or come to their level where they're standing or sitting. What that means for a person is respect. You don't have to put your hands on them. You don't have to pray for them every 30. I'm not saying that. Just come down to their or up. There's some tall disabled people. Trust me. I know.
Yeah.
Just give yourself a second to listen and understand. And don't be afraid to say, hey, would you mind repeating that? I didn't understand all of it. I understand
exactly.
All that you said.
Yeah.
There are Marthe is from Johannesburg, South Africa. There are some things I may not understand, and I'll say, can you repeat that one more time? Because we're not perfect. Again, that hearing, I may have a little wax buildup in there. You gotta find it. So, do you feel that Abilities Without Limits? Do you feel that it's reaching the masses that you want it to? And if it's not, what are you doing to change that?
Okay, I feel like it can reach more people. In a sense of some people, they hear what you say, but they don't listen. It makes sense. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. And for some people might not be interested at all. As I said, some people might have a fear. Some people want to learn more, but they don't want to ask us because they don't know what to ask.
Right.
And for some, I know the penny will drop at some other stage because they'll meet a person, maybe a family friend or a co-worker
Mhm.
who talks about a person with a disability, that person might have cerebral palsy, then they'll remember they had, well, the other Marthe Marie, had a conversation with them,
Mhm.
So they might not remember my name, but they'll remember that someone had this conversation with them. So somewhere along the line, the penny might drop, definitely.
I find, and I'm saying this with the utmost respect. I find that you're very hard to forget because when you speak with passion
Mm,
in
because
every
that comes from
in
heart,
yeah, with
definitely.
every phrase. Now I want to read this because this right here is a dynamic comment. Difference. 1 second. What can you do? A smile. How are you? 1 minute. How are you? Hope you and your family are well. Take care. A half hour. Coffee with a friend that you've not seen for a while. An hour lunch or so. A phone call. Someone just might you might just make their day. An afternoon. A few drinks. A lunch. Help with a project. Assistance to the doctor. How much can that do? More than you ever know. A nod. How are you? Hi could change someone's outlook on the whole day.
Oh,
So
yes.
far from that, appreciate. I gotta tell you, that right there sums this whole show up right here.
It does, it does. And you know what? If what I also tell people, if you see a family and they've got a child with cerebral palsy and ask them, and you realize that the child is nonverbal, you can ask them, how do they communicate with the child? And they will
Great
appreciate
question.
that question. They
Great
will
question.
appreciate.
And but
And
when you do it, don't just
mm,
look at them. Look at the
exactly,
child or the
exactly.
person and say, I'm not sure how to communicate with you, but
Yeah.
I want to because your eyes, and I'm going to say something, hang on a second. Females, especially, your eyes tell the story of everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if you look with your eyes and you show a person
Absolutely.
that you are interested, that gleam in that child's eye,
Yes.
children don't forget nothing. I'm gonna tell
And
you.
I want to share one thing with you.
Mhm.
I think it was about 2 years ago. I think no, it was even before COVID and everything. I attended a sports event one Saturday afternoon or a training session,
Mm,
and this guy was sitting there, and I said, "Hello, how are you?"
mhm,
And he didn't respond. So his mom was sitting next to him, and I asked her, but how do you communicate with him? Because I was curious, because you get
mhm.
various types of cerebral palsy, and I
Right.
also learn a lot from this whole
Mhm,
thing. And so she explained to me, and before I walked away and we finished our conversation, basically, I looked at him, but I spoke to her while I was looking at him, and I told her, but I'm sure he understands every word we're discussing now. And
beautiful.
the moment I said that, I think I've mentioned in other interviews as well, I got goosebumps. His eyes lit up. I promise you, his eyes spoke to my soul. I'll never forget it. It's like amazing.
There was I had a friend that was a martial arts teacher, and when I first started martial arts, Mr. Rose, I was working with him, and I was so focused on what I was doing. He said, "Man," he said, "you may have cerebral palsy." He said, "But I'm gonna tell you something. Your eyes tell a story. When you're in that ring with that opponent, something happens. Your eyes are the window to the soul.
Mm-hmm.
People may not be able to form the words, but that doesn't mean they can't communicate." And I talked about other senses earlier in this show. You would be surprised, and someone else who is very close to me, words are powerful. They can affect a person and how they're brought on to them. Miss Martha said, I looked at him while I spoke to his mother, but I'm sure he can understand every word. She
Yeah.
did not take the assumption that he could not hear and understand, she realized that the words may not come out as speech, but he heard and his eyes opened, and you see the somebody finally gets it. And sometimes that's all it takes right there is to realize that you're not alone, that you're not on the island by yourself going, oh my God, I don't have to say it 32 times. So do you recall how the mother said how they communicate, how she communicates with him? What was the conversation like?
Well, what I remember, what she explained to me basically was that they use a type of a sign language that they taught, each other from when he was a little boy.
Wow.
And then pictures, they've got this whole chart, whether it's for food or water, then he would point out to those stuff as well. Because also, comparing, that's another thing, comparing to overseas where you guys are. I must say South Africa is quite a few steps back with certain things. So they don't have accessibility to all these technological advanced like iPads or computers in their specific case now. And so they've got this printouts which they laminated, and then he'll point out to those stuff.
So it's a form of kind of a communication board too. Yeah. Now this here is kind of I want to mention this too. Kim, the disabled head teacher, meaning me, is all my kids' favorite teacher. I guess because I see things differently than the normal teacher, which means a lot. Kids, I have to be honest. Kids don't discriminate because they don't know how. Okay, unless they're taught, unless that's what they are taught, unless that's what they're shown. Kids learn by doing and by seeing. So to a child, when you have a disability, they may not know what the disability is, but you still may be normal to them. Let them ask you a question and don't be offended by it. Don't just think that they're asking you to be offensive. Yes, there is a way to ask things. There is a way to say things. There is a way to do things. Yes, it's a taught behavior, Shannon. That's correct. Let them ask the only way they know how. If they're 5 years old, remember, they're not going to go past the 5-year-old intellectual level and go, I'd like to know exactly what it is that you have. Could you explain that to me, sir? If they do that, I'm going to go, that child needs to be on a talk show real quick. That's the moment you go, oh God. But I love this because this right here shows it doesn't matter about the disability. It doesn't matter. It matters about the inside of the person. The ability, and again, she said, ability without limits. Take that word ability and look at it. That person that she spoke with that did not communicate verbally, she could have handled it totally different and gotten frustrated and walked away because she didn't get, quote unquote, what she wanted in, he didn't talk to me the way I'm used to hearing it. But what she did was she took it a step further and showed that just because you don't communicate with me, listen to this, just because you don't communicate with me verbally does not mean I don't want to talk to you. When you show a person that you are interested in them, and I'm going to tell this story because I don't get a chance to tell this very often, but I was out on the sidewalk going to Food Lion to go to the store, and I met a person who was deaf, but she could use her voice, and I could not understand what she was saying, and it frustrated me to no end because I had to ask her 4 times. 4 times to repeat it. And I finally said, I really want to hear what you have to say. Could you write it down?
Mm-hmm.
And she hugged me. She hugged me. And I knew it was something to do with food.
Mm.
She was down on her luck, and her child and her were hungry. And she did not have, she saw that I had chicken, and I told her I would give her a piece of chicken,
Mm.
but she did not want to take my food. So I went and I bought her chicken for her and her child, and she hugged me. I could not understand, but she took out a pen and paper and she wrote it down. I said, "You have beautiful handwriting."
Mm.
And she smiled. I said, "I am sorry I asked you to say that 4 times." She said, "Don't be.
Mm.
Don't be." I read that, and I still, to this day, have that piece of paper. She left, and that child loved that chicken. That child smiled. And I remember that moment of frustration because I couldn't understand. But I took it a step further. I said, all right, how can I bridge this gap? Because I'm not letting this girl walk away without knowing what the heck she's talking about.
Mm.
When I asked her to write it down, she goes, "You didn't walk away." She said, "My child and I are hungry, this. And she, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but
Mm-mm.
she told me why. And she goes, "You didn't stop. Most people will walk away and not say anything." And I'm like, oh. And her little child had the chicken grease all over his face, and he's just smiling, and he said thank you to me. So her child was not disabled, but she was.
Yeah.
And that thank you, that little 3 or 4-year-old thank you, man, I'm like, you kidding?
Yeah.
For that, I'll go buy more chicken just so to say it more. She just smiled. She was so thankful at that moment. JP, oh, what a great comment, JP. Kids are very direct with questions about disabilities. Some that many adults find offensive, but it's better used as a teaching tool. So I don't get upset when they ask a personal question. I'm actually more upset with the parent if they choose to reprimand the child in public because they ask the question.
Yeah.
This is just what we were talking about, Ms. Martha and myself.
Yeah.
Their only way they're going to know is if you tell them.
Yeah. And DJ, sorry for interrupting you. I think it's very important that they must let it be for children, leave the child to ask, because if the parent sort of cuts them off or just pulls them away, they will associate it with pain or negativity.
Yeah, and then they get a negative response and won't ask when they have a question, which stunts them and stunts this. To where if you let them ask and they grow to understand, what a great show this is turning out to be. You think something is going to go one direction, and now, and not that I've thought that, but I'm just saying, it's amazing with shows like this. All the way in Johannesburg, South Africa, you hear this cry for equality. Equality. When are we going to be equal? When are we going to be treated as equals?
Absolutely. And as far as I know, it's 1 out of 20 children do have a disability. So it gives us 19 children who doesn't have a disability.
Mm-hmm.
So 19 children can learn more about inclusion. But then that one child with a disability can also learn from that non-disabled child as well. So I think in a certain way it goes both ways.
This lady right here, she is such a good friend. Tiffany, I tell you, yes, because of the way the child wondered, if only been a wheelchair bound for almost 10 years. I've only been wheelchair bound for almost 10 years now, but I would rather talk to a child than a parent. And I again, to be blunt, I have said, do not fear to ask me a question. Okay. There are some questions I may not answer, and I may say, hey, you know what? I don't feel comfortable answering that. Once I get to know you a little bit better and we get on a level that I understand you're not trying to be offensive, then I'll answer that question. But right now, I'm not going. Don't come up to me and ask me, can I have kids? Because I'm gonna go, no, my wife can, but I can't. And then they're going, oh, you're just being funny. No, you asked me, can I have kids? I said no. And, I don't mind, but there are some questions that you don't ask. There's some things you don't. You have to kind of filter yourself. But if you're a young child and you have a question, ask me, because that's the only way you're going to know. Now, I want to kind of go. You said, I believe, 1 in 20 are born with a disability. Do you feel that over, you would say in the last 10 years that it's gotten any better with isolation and, mainstream schools and things like that? Do you think that it's getting better? Do you see change at all?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in the sense of the technology is much more advanced, but the technology is not available to everyone. And yes, I would say there's more inclusion than about 20 years ago, but we still have a very long way to go.
What would you like to see happen in the next year or two?
What I would like to see happen, for people to take the time to start a conversation with a person with a disability. When they walk past a person, say, hello, how are you? It won't take longer than 30 seconds to a minute. I think all of us, including me, sometimes we can be like in a hurry, or, we have to get things done.
Yeah.
And we focus on our stuff. But we mustn't forget about the people around us. You might walk past a person, whether it's a shopping center or a library, and if you see the person, if you see they do have a disability, and even if you see that at the library and they need help with a book to take it off the shelf, ask them, how do you want me to help you?
Yes, there it is. I wanted to see what you would say.
Kindness. You know what I'm saying? It starts with a small act of kindness and a smile. That's how your conversation.
And don't forget that this with hello is okay too. If you don't know what to say, walk by, smile, and wave.
Yes.
A smile is a small act of kindness that you can have somebody having the worst day, throwing groceries on the ground, picking up the cucumbers, stomping on them, the carrots fell out of the cart fell over. You walk and you look down and you turn and you just smile.
Yeah.
1 second can change a life. Because I guarantee you, when you smile, you're going to get some kind of response like, the heck is he smiling at me for?
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that you have a good day. And when you answer them, then they go, I need to change my way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because when you take that small act of kindness to ask them, would you like me to help you get that book off the shelf? Don't assume they can't do it, because you might get that book upside the head.
Exactly.
And let me tell you, people with cerebral palsy may not be able to move a certain way, but they are strong. And when you get punched by somebody with CP, you're going to go from one side of the room to the other. Trust me.
Yeah.
I know. I love how simple that answer was. What would you like to see? someone have a conversation with someone with disability. It takes 30 seconds to a minute. All
Yeah,
you have to do,
yeah.
simple act of kindness.
And you know what, people in this day and age, unfortunately, it still happens. People, they listen to react and they don't listen to respond.
Oh, wow.
And
What a
that's one of the big problems.
what a comment. They listen to react and not to respond. I think that's the first time that's ever been said on my show. Oh wow. That one, when ain't much time, I'm speechless, but you got me on that one. But and see, the reason that is,
Mm.
I think, is because people are so used to doing things their way.
Mm.
You got to get out of your own way and realize that this box that you put yourself in,
Mm.
everybody is not like you.
Mm. Mm.
Get out of your own way and open up a little bit.
But I also think it's the way people think that other people are, how can I say, molded. Then
Mm,
they expect people with disabilities to be molded the same, but we're not. We're completely different physically, you know.
well, to go on kind of a step further on that, we may look different, but when you take a person, male, female,
Mm.
disability, no disability, man, woman, child, let's look at the basics.
Mm.
Most of us have a heart.
Mm.
Most of us have a brain.
Mm.
All of us have a soul.
Oh yes, yeah.
All of us.
Mm.
So in here, we may not communicate the same.
Mm.
Black, white. I'm pretty sure I got every color in me. I'm not. Somebody asked me what race are you? I just say all of them. Because it's easier that way. I say that because I don't look at black, white, brown, yellow. I never have, because I don't see color. I see
Mm.
people. Because when you stand a person in front of me, they're not just male and female. They're a person. They don't just have a disability. They're a person. And I consider, and I've always said this, I consider my CP a blessing, because my CP has helped mold me into who I am. It doesn't
Mm.
define me. It doesn't define what I can do, but it has molded me into the person I am. And I am glad that it showed me that you got to slow down. You mentioned everybody is go, 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 get things done, do, go, 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 life, boom, 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 boom. I gotta. No, you don't. Take a second to stop.
Yeah, and I say, for me personally, I say I've embraced my cerebral palsy because my disability enabled me to focus on my abilities.
What a great statement. My
Because
disability.
every day you're on a journey of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yes, very well said. Well, I've got about 12 minutes left in this show, and I am looking forward to this. I have some questions for you, and we're going to keep this clean, of course, because we've been clean the whole show. But and
Okay.
then I have one more question at the end that I haven't done yet. But I introduced this last week, and it's called Favorites. Okay, it's 10 questions. So, Miss Martha, what is your favorite sound?
The morning when I wake up in the mornings and I hear the birds chirping.
Mm.
For me, it's nice.
What is your favorite word?
Amazing.
Amazing. What is your least favorite word?
You can't.
What? Let's see. Let me think. I guess I did. Okay. What is your favorite color?
Blue
Mm-hmm.
and green.
Blue and green. What's your favorite animal?
Well, currently we have got two small Dachshunds, so I would say Dachshund definitely.
Okay. What is your least favorite animal?
A spider. Well, that's an insect. Okay. But it is spider. I don't like spiders.
I have two more. What are you most afraid of?
Sure. I think I'm so focused on positivity, I can't think of fear or being afraid at the moment.
If you could change one thing about your disability, anything about it, what would it be, and would you change anything about your disability?
No, I won't.
You would.
Because then I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Okay. And then finally, you had asked me a couple of questions off the air before we came on to the show. If you had to ask me a question that you think that I couldn't answer, if you had a question in the back of your mind that you want to ask me after being on this show, and going through all of this, what would you ask me? It doesn't have to be one that I can't answer, but if you had a question in the back of your mind to ask me, what would it be?
Well, you're on show 84. Which show had the biggest impact on you?
I don't have one show that has impacted me, because honestly, all of them have. Because an impact to me kind of starts out small. All of the show, every single show I've done, takes I give a piece of myself, and I take a piece of the person with me, because there's a connection beyond the show itself. There is, I mentioned Tiffany earlier, Kim, Josh, JP, most of all these folks, Cindy, have been on my show. And it's amazing that the fan base grows from the guests that I've had. And I've had some of them back for a part 2, some of them back for a part 3. I'd love to have you back again, because it's one of these things where the connection, we are so focused on the word disability. If you take the word dis, it means not. Okay? Ability is the able to do something. So you tell me something or show me something I'm not able to do, and I'm going to go around that not. I'm going to take that T off the can't and change it into a can by dropping the T and getting it done. But I think all of the shows that I've done have an impact on me. But if I had to say one that really changed my life, it was the story of Fisher and Ronnie. I did a story of Fisher and Ronnie. I believe it was around the episode of the 30s somewhere. And Fisher took care of his dad when his dad was paralyzed. He was 4 years old.
Sure.
He would feed him his food. He would help him roll. He would help him, and God instilled something in that child, because he's 13, 14 now, probably 15 now, and he still helps his dad. And I'm waiting to have them for part 2, because I cried so hard after that show. You talk about an impact. I was just tears streaming down my face.
Sure.
Tiffany, they are amazing. Fisher and Ronnie they've invited me down to go fishing with them. It's, again, that connection that you have with people when you meet a person that you just grab onto, and it's like, man, can I have you on next week too? Like,
I hear you.
So we've got about 5 minutes left. I just want to, anything that you want to share or say, any final words that you want to if you want to share how people can follow you, feel free to do that. The floor is yours.
I've got actually one more question for you, DJ.
Sure.
Do you see your disability as a strength? And if yes, why do you see it as your strength?
I always have. Once I accepted it, I always have. I will say I used to look at my disability as a weakness until I got saved, until I accepted Christ, and until I realized that it doesn't matter what you have. Your disability is an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
There may be obstacles in your way that you face, but it's not about the obstacle. It's about how you go over it, through it, or around it. So yeah, I would say my disability is a strength because it has. Don said need 2-hour shows. Thank you, Don. I'll bring that up to my boss. I just it really is. It's all in how you perceive it.
Absolutely.
You have to embrace your disability. You said that earlier in the show. I embrace cerebral palsy because, like it or not, it's part of who you are, and that's not a bad thing. A disability is not necessarily a bad thing. It may make things difficult, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. To answer that question. So,
and I also think it's important to embrace your disability and not always to strive for perfection. I think you must choose progress over perfection.
So true. Wow. Well, I will say this: no one is perfect. No matter how hard you strive for it, you're not going to get there.
Exactly.
I want to thank you for being on the show. This was amazing. All of our audience that came in, our viewers, thank you guys for being here. I will say we're definitely going to have Miss Marthe back on the show with us again. Stay with me because I'm gonna close out the show here, and then I want to. How would you mind sharing how people can find your Abilities Without Limits?
Certainly. We've got a Facebook page, Abilities Without Limits, and then we've actually got a website as well. Mm-hmm. It's www.abilitieswithoutlimits, all one word, .co.za. It's South African based. You can view it globally, but it's a South African website link.
Do me a favor, if you would, once the show is over, go in and put that link in the comments so that they can click on it.
And I just want to emphasize the Facebook page is a page for those with disabilities. It doesn't only have to be those with cerebral palsy. Look, we focus on cerebral palsy, but all those with other types of disabilities and for non-disabled people, because I believe we can learn from each other. It's a way to network and connect as well.
All right. Well, that is awesome. And we're going to get that in the comments as well. Guys, you know where to follow me. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. My CP does not define me. Instagram, same thing. Twitter, same thing. Just at Minion Sports. My CP does not define me. Chairmaster Games on YouTube. Also, Worth the Wait Cooking with DJ Carter. And finally, my blog, it is CarterDJ85 at wixsite.com. And I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. This is D to the J with a roll away saying we will see you next week for episode 85 of My CP Does Not Define Me.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. As always, you can catch us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. If you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, My CP Does Not Define Me, we post all of the show videos in our My CP playlist. I'm your host, D to the J with the roll away. And if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. We'll see you next week.